seen him in connection with the 4 members of parliament, and then no can say it been mad defective from one party to another party, be some called independent. And tonight, position about speaker name also invoking the relevant provisions of the 1992 Constitution. Article 971 G and H. Of course, one of them say black and white.
Okay.
Say we a member of parliament on a particular party, and I say who defected to another party. And I say we see there be uko quantum crop until we call as an independent candidate. To the extent so we say member of parliament, and we say upaketi seat.
Okay.
Na yemaho kwan say mbrenu womu dia na kebe by election. In this case, you know, that provision ain't me applicable into
less than
3 months into that's it. Now we say we storyline issue na ya dey bia esida. Na into na we share speaker Babin ruling no na odi tutu Professor Michael Kwe the ruling no year ma against honorable Shama in 2020 na obeka say photocopy kakra.
Okay.
We say 92.3 make sure say the word president no or the beye ejuma in his ruling.
Okay.
No everybody thought say we are making progress as far as democracy is concerned. But Chibia Neja say echo Supreme Court. But before I will deal with the Supreme Court issues, I think the Supreme Court itself has not been very consistent.
They have not been very consistent
in most of their rulings.
Okay.
Because I said me call passport office. Last week, some call me passport. Almost been from a birth certificate, and I'm oh, there's a ruling on this by the Supreme Court. Say, you birth certificate and interest we can in come here. They should proceed with my passport. Also, master man fast as even by officer.
That's right.
You need to go and bring the birth certificate. And so when you have rulings like this, I mean, in the past, relative to near Esinu and I as if in Bibri. Now, before me back ruling, no, I think say the constitution no ye can was a Ghanaians for a true constitution.
Okay.
And the framers no were clear in their mind whatever on be to protect the human rights of every person I were a Ghanaian. I've heard some arguments, especially reach now. A court, Supreme Court, say you must speak a pronouncement. It's not there. Then the very fundamental rights of the said speaker, members of parliament, has been trampled upon. Indeed, almost they have the right, their right to representation has been curtailed. The framework of the constitution, as we say, there will be a point where issue like this will come before the house, and it's if there is such provision, we make arrangements to allow for the upholding of the rights of the very persons that right to be affected under Article 99. Say we a member of parliament. Now say a case be abasada say we have to package your seat. Say the High Court shall have under Article 99 clause 1. The High Court shall have the jurisdiction to hear and determine any question whether a person has been validly elected as a member of parliament or the seat of member of parliament has become vacant, or a person has been validly elected as a speaker of parliament or having been so elected or have vacated the office of speaker. And to share 99(1)(a) make provision for the affected members of parliament to go to the High Court to seek redress. That's the first point.
Okay.
Now, secondly, there was a debate on the floor of the House leading up to the Speaker's ruling, and nothing stopped the affected person from making their cases because when they affected individual, because they took individual decisions as politicians, and who should answer by Article 97. If you look at the ruling of the Speaker as it stands now, it directly represents what the provisions of the Constitution say. Ultimately, enter Parliament on the ticket of Party A. Now, also well free Party A to Party B, and yet you still want to use that party na do ba parliament ni it's now not on the ground we campaign it's just a party
92.3. Okay.
because if I'm an NDC MP, let's say someone like Madam Morrison,
okay,
or MPP or see or independent. And to me look I say a notice of poll na banner ni as an independent candidate no say or campaigner na ebia sometimes say Dr. Mabia Eba constitute campaigner on it more enko.
That's right.
Only the validly elected member parliamentary candidate on the MPP and Ebeko. And the Morrison's campaign Aman against the candidate of the party that has taken her to parliament now. That is absurdity.
92.3. Okay.
Yaria. And that is the kind of Yaria, the framework of constitution who is the be. We must find a way to cure this. So that people will not abuse that advantage they get to come to parliament. Because you don't come to parliament to serve yourself. Uber parliament, you are added up to the numbers to advance the cause and interest of Ghanaians, but on the ticket of a political party. And to him says the political party that they buy say afono there, then you need to go back home and reorganize yourself and tell your constituency, "Would me buy on the ticket of NDC or MPP." But unfortunately, ABC, I'm unable to continue on that tangent until me back. Now, myself to swaba on a very ticket, but you cannot get their mandate on a ticket A. Who draw here also the master then automatically you sit there. There's something I saw with the constitution of the MPP. What do you say? The case of lawyer Babia Sabwan.
That's right.
Hobson Adoye. On him too. And Boniface Abakasidik.
Okay.
By virtue of the fact say almost support to Alan Ntinu when the general secretary of the MPP was questioned. Also or go to articles 35 9 I or so.
That's right.
That talked about automatic forfeiture of membership.
Their constitution.
Master, I know the trauma war. Unya decide here to publicly go against the decision of the party because the party decision is that Dr. Baumia is their validly elected flag bearer against Alan, I don't know, or Sukra with Jai party.
Okay.
Until once you are a member of a party, now would deal a cheap pet. Would the Alan cheap Dean the cheap crowd good did the I came with a young to man crown says what for fit of membership.
I know crowd they will not even write to
that,
you.
No, that what for fit of membership.
Ain't this a metewasia? That we have the national constitution.
Exactly, yeah.
And the constitution be a year by year must conform with the national constitution.
Why come the supremacy of the constitution? And to do it and come out with any provision in your constitution as a party that runs contrary to the national constitution.
That's right.
So what I say. And into as we speak, if today, by virtue of the fact say Nipano are forfeiting the membership because as we speak now, Asiama by the MPP's constitution, only member of the MPP.
The name is
Asiama, sorry, Asiama, only member of the MPP.
That's right.
Sounds like friends say Morrison and the Suhum member of parliament. They are not members but so for you to argue, say because the party has not written to parliament to say these members of ours no. That does not make sense.
Now, even
as an insult to young Ghanaians now, yes, you are because your constitution talked about automatic forfeiture of membership. So, and and them look and say, Wakofa form were easy. SN me free MPP quantum chromico as a independent. A CR also me look and say, I feel back to a friend say MPP from the independent. I know want to Wako file it. And that clearly tells you their position now. And the constitution only says that to the extent say what take that decision there, you can no longer hold yourself out as a member of parliament until you go. We were here in this country, that was in 2000 or so, when we were saying, I think now Tamale Central. So no Panakunya and of course. Why saying just cross? And there be young cross. So what's the Jai NDC about MPP there? Yen Fakuyan and Crosser. Once we have made that decision, it was so coffee. Because it leads to automatic vacation of your seat.
Okay.
That was what led to the by-election. The Honorable Inusa has said a buy on the ticket of the NDC. And so there has been precedent. Now, coming to the substantive issue, I say, a friend saying, I feel you're making a debate out. So they call Supreme Court. Let's grant him that right. Because and Article 2:1 and Article 130. So long as say what raises constitutional issues with respect to the ruling now, Speaker Mine, then to that extent, he must get hearing. Into you can't fault on that because I would see a speaker ruling now or cite a number of the legal basis that will usually take the decision.
That's right.
And or state standing orders, or state president, or state Parliament Act, and of course, or state the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana as one of the sources. And we share the case of a friend saying, the Supreme Court is making it clear in that case. And if you allow me, read that. Or see, if the disparate interpretation proffered by the parties exclusively implicated the standing orders, procedures, and practices of Parliament without more, we would have no difficulty in reaching the conclusion that Parliament is and ought always to be a master of its procedures, orders, and practices without let or hindrance from the court. In such a case, there would have been matters that lie peculiarly within the domain of Parliament and would therefore not be matters appropriate for judicial determination. However, to the extent that the challenge to these proceedings in the third issues are equally anchored on rival interpretation of the combined reading of Article 102 and 104 of the Constitution, the only court mandated under Article 130 to interpret the true and proper meaning of these provisions of the Constitution is the court. What it means is say anchor the ruling of the speaker no squarely within the remit where it is based on the practices, their conventions, their procedures, the standing orders.
Okay.
They have no only business to move into Parliament because of the principle of separation of powers. But to the extent that there's a mention of a provision of the 1992 Constitution as the area of debate, that one you have invited them.
You have invited the court.
The court to come in.
Okay.
And that is what, as part of the release of Afenyo Market, sought to talk about the interpretation of the Article 97(1) GH. And once was one mention, say the speaker doesn't have the power to interpret that in here, then the speaker has to come in. The challenge that people have had about this very Supreme Court is the matter of consistency. Because also the rush, the urgency, attach it to this panel no in the minimum it may hear the case every ruling by a lot of Ghanaians and followers of the law are of the view say we have other equally pending cases before the Supreme Court which is of national interest because we can say any issue in fact about 98 parents are of right thinking parents are not in support of this.
Exactly.
And then there can't say there must be a bill that has to couch around it and sent to the president for assent. Yes, it will be the Supreme Court. Ever seen there? There was a demonstration recently to put pressure on the Chief Justice to expedite action on that suit, so that we can get the speaker to the president to sign. As we speak, here. There was a program I had to chair where Roxy Dafemepo was the main speaker of that program. And I asked him that issue not the Supreme Court questioning why political exposed persons and they might take over EC when EC naturally and in principle must be manned by a form impartial and not biased.
Okay.
Also, since the panel, the justice is to hear him. The hearing you do Sabako Yaria, Nabaku to Quine. Baku to Quine, Baku Yabia. Until you will not go to court and get a full panel to hear you. when you hear stories like this relative to what happened to the speaker's ruling, it's worrying.
They are being political.
That is why Ghanaians are going that direction. This particular Supreme Court is becoming increasingly political. Look, we know that some of the justices are card-bearing members of the MPP. I mean, it's clear. You saw I know two out of the 5.
That's right.
So what I say, I know 2 out of the 5 as politically exposed persons.
Somebody like Justice Ernest Yao.
Exactly.
Whole Central 2016. No, parliamentary candidate for
Justice Asare.
You see?
It's an MPP person. But the question is that I expect to say, rule in Sunya you shouldn't go and confirm your perception now, man, for what say, as a board game to favor one political party or that. And that's what it's becoming. And it is a share cases are which is of utmost national interest. Now, when Master say, and you see the way they kept mentioning that we are going to the court. I mean, I didn't, as a student of law, I knew they are within their right to go there. So who exercising Article 2:1 and invoke Article 130 to go to court, it's within your right. But as to what comes out there, you have no control. And to us all quite a many problems. But the way they were talking about it and the way they got that ruling, it makes me say, then why that level of confidence? And when they speak, I think you can even tell, say they know the outcome of it already.
That's right.
And that's very worrying to our study of the law.
But me a lay person when it comes to the law. But at least Dokuna Abino, Dokuna Netuashi, me who say Abiyamini. Now, everybody no be to me, I can say, media say be court. And I say, everybody no be gacho. This issue, I'm going to contest in court. Because one reason is right from day one, once a Bagbin, I did ruling everybody. Ruling in the crown, Maya, no, nothing your markings, Tio. Ruling no crown, Maya, no, not a friend your markings, a court, so quack injunct. So, why do we injunct something that is not in existence? I hope you are getting my point.
I get your point.
Why do you inject something that is not? Let me put this. Why you are putting something out of nothing? Is that not good? You are putting something on nothing. In the I don't know. I'm called Babu Grant Tenasi. I'm over who the outcome. No one call court. It will go do court. No, then I will call court.
Okay, so who share? What's the question? Has been one of the baffling questions I want among for building. So who share the LGBTQ bill then?
That's right.
The president met the international community, and they were raising concerns about the human rights aspect of the case. No only person assure me say, be law na mo kan kura no, me no ka say ade be chi no, obi de be Supreme Court. And me train the outcome of the Supreme Court to direct whether we will go on that tangent or not. The question is that, say, would the case you call court on a law? How do you take a case of a bill that is not yet that has not yet been assented to and is not in a law? How does that bill how does that case be detained in the law court? Because to say or court because it is a provision within the bill on the full say any law in Bobra, there is still in its formative stage until the president assents it into a law. In the I would have expected to say, president amana assent amana law we and sana with their court. But they know their kwama and they entertain the case according to president may chairman who appear and sana masai and to do what you see sometimes you don't have to prejudicial, but you can tell you say it will come back to say because of bill no equal president on sign it only quite say already you can one say provision the constitution only allow and Article 2:1 say who Alaska who say obinia who be a breach a certain aspect of the constitution. That is where you invoke Article 130, calling on the Supreme Court to come and enforce their interpretational and enforcement powers. But when we are lawyer, but the balance they are asking for the Supreme Court's intervention to deal with a provision me on TSA in a bill, not an act, and yet it's in court. And that's why I'm saying, so we share the rush with which this particular way, then you will understand where we are going. Because I feel making statements where one or see, yes, sir, a bit affecting government business, our parliament, and into young said, and on the current majority of NDC, the current majority of NDC will skew the process of parliament to be inimical to the government business. You already know. Or why not? Why born as you know who say a Jama NDC, our parliament is here. And yet the NDC be a Jumano favor government. And into be a Juman to affect the business of government. It's one of their strongest points. I'm just to say, Anka, young grand to Omusa in Junction way. Nyatosu Mianusunu. Tell me, Kaka. On the point they say, those MPs no, constituents no, will be denied representation. We are in this country.
That's right.
And the whole constituency from 2020 to end there are without members of member of parliament. They don't have representation in parliament. And yet, you say normal. It took just an administrative fiat by the Electoral Commission to declare say the South people will not be able to vote to get an MP.
Less than 24 hours.
Less than 24 hours
to a general election.
Which it is was the greatest infringement of the right of the people of SAL, because they didn't even have any opportunity to contest this matter in court because we were just moving into elections. What has happened after the elections? I mean, we can say still they are there without representation. So if you still say we have a whole electoral commission, a state institution, then we have a Supreme Court that is there to safeguard our laws and constitution. Now, and one of the strongest points is there that 2 months ago, the people of Suhum, the people of Agona, right, and the people of Fomena, and Amefi Central will be denied representation. And it's one of the reasons why they are granted this. Where is the law going?
But that question was made to sit at home for more than some months.
And so you bring in the issue of that question. But at the time when I know it was one of the points like I said, if you go ahead with this, what becomes of the people of Asimno? Because then they also need representation. It's because I say, if you are not careful, we are moving into a realm where yes, the law is there, but you're playing depending on your power. And it will undermine the pillars of democracy. Because see, one of the most disappointing comments I made in the face of this back and forth from the MPP was that today they are telling Ghanaians say the rulings of just to justify our actions, the rulings of Professor Michael Quinn are wrong. It's an error.
It's an error.
But they are now speaking boldly against it, and almost say to the extent say error. No. Why should we entertain two wrongs? Because two wrongs doesn't make it. And today, no, say, and you come before ruling. Say, if we friend saying, Babi uses the president said by Professor Michael Quay as the reason for asking them to vacate their seat, then he's going to commit another wrong. The question is that you are there, yes, on the ticket of MPP, but you are there representing Ghana. So when did you realize that Professor was an error? Did you know that time just to get this man out of parliament just because we're quite independent? Why didn't you contest this matter in court? And these are some of the dishonesty and insincerity. Yeah, members of parliament on my exhibit one it sues them. And I am very disappointed. Say that becomes the ground, but that's the kind of politics we are. And then I done quickly. Michael Quay case wrong. And again, almost argument say because let there be a free MPP headquarters. I'm back parliament speaker in who quine. Meanwhile, your own constitution talks about automatic forfeiture of membership. Then what they are telling is that then friends, the Hobson is still a member of the MPP until say show letter. Meanwhile, when you were interviewed, you said that that's the part only a provision of the constitution. So the inconsistencies, too much. And I still say, right now the Speaker of Parliament, on the head of the legislature.
That's right.
All the rulings about. Now, the Supreme Court says the ruling that would happen is under suspension until say we will determine the matter. Even the determination of the matter, no, what the applicant took to court is not what he was given.
Exactly.
And in law, when you go to court, you are given what you seek.
Exactly.
The judge will not say, okay, even though you saw 10 days, I'm going to give you more than that. But in this case, it has been given indefinite until the final determination. You sometimes don't understand some of these nuances. But me, back and forth, I think say we should be able to differentiate between when we have lawful issues to discuss and when we come to politics.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, our differentiations now going forward, we're going to have serious problem because I have always come here and said, say, the current architecture of the EC is a problem to Ghana's future democracy. I've said it here, and I keep saying it. The appointments of people onto the Supreme Court, and I want to say, as we speak now, there are two Supreme Court judges appointed. The Amo say you approve I mean by Parliament before they start. When you government business now pending because of this case.
That's right.
Piling the courts, and by the time we realize we will go into elections and woe betides anybody where the good people of Ghana comes with their verdict. Then you will go and tell them that they should go to court with this kind of mindset. Then where are we going? And then I think say they should listen to the National Security Minister. That man, is relative to the pulse of Ghanaians on the ground. Because if the national security begins to be politics, then it means that we have no nation. And he came out to speak against the way and manner judgment from the court are tilted toward one direction at all times. It doesn't augur well for your democracy. And for me, if it is that we are going to attach agency to your cases in court, then it shouldn't be selective. The all other cases are all now.
Were you referring to this?
If the interpretation of the law is tilted so much in our favor all the time, people will start accusing the judiciary and will not have the confidence that they need.
This is what I'm talking about. And that statement, it was a deep statement because no one will say no. The temperature of the Oman will be equal. So I'm intervening in this manner to ask them to give a real look at the way a man they issue rulings and judgment in the court. But my actually going into the future because once the good people of this country, or more stakeholders of the constitution, they lose confidence in a very important branch of government, judiciary, then we are heading nowhere because people will then begin to resort to a way of getting justice. Then what becomes what becomes of our court and other judicial arms? Okay. This is the direction that I'm saying. Was
Before my auntie will find what do you make of Sir Govins Agboja or say Ochinano? Then Chief Justice must come to the chambers to implement the ruling. What does that make this thing to you? What does that tell you?
It tells us that yes, there can be rulings in court, but such rulings must also take into consideration the psyche of people who are going to be affected by the ruling. What this clearly means that the current majority do not agree to.
That's right.
The position of the Supreme Court, and they are still of the view
that they are
the members of the legislature and they have their own rules. And once speaker has spoken, the only thing that can happen is that it must be adhered to. And yes, you can make your ruling in there, but then come and see, let's see how you will enforce that ruling in the parliament. And what also means that from today, I don't know when it will end. That cooperation that we require to get from parliamentarians to move this business of government forward is broken. And this time around, the outstanding business that government has, some of them are crucially tied to even the IMF bailout.
That's right.
Like the one on the Environmental Protection Agency, the 250 million loan facility from the bank, World Bank. These are crucial government programs and business. And
they have just 3 weeks to go.
And just 3 weeks to go because they have to also leave parliament and go to their grounds and start campaigning. It is not in their interest, given the tangent they are going to. And we are all waiting to see what happens, friends, or what unfolds in parliament tomorrow. And for me, that's going to be another historic feature. Ebabesi will have the opportunity to pen down and learn a lot from it, because the separation of powers, as far as the cabinet is concerned, it's clear where every branch stays within their remit. But of course, the checks and balances are also there, where there are variations. Who comes in to do what is also there, and that's where I think the Supreme Court is coming in, just to hear him, and then we hear what the ruling will be to give us the direction for the future. But it will be interesting days ahead.
But because you see, technically, after Sir Speaker did the ruling by now, Sir Anchor the following day now was a parliament called sitting, and a background air journey at the court Tuesday. And so meaning say the moment I wire wimper, I was sitting arrangement a change.
That is where it will going to be interesting tomorrow.
That's right. So I'm reliably informed. Someone who can say, and con one assessor. And the Achina Babano. Now, what in the say? And the NDC can say, one no. They know, sir, they are the majority group now.
Of course, yeah.
And the sitting arrangement, you know, Anna, Oma warning the military, sir, Oma te say, but they are ever ready for them.
I think the let them do joke about the facts there, unless there are cool hells, maybe. This time up to but the kind of tension I see around from now on, if it continues up to tomorrow, I think that there's going to be something different in parliament. Because see, the parliament also have their own security. The court martial.
That's right.
And they work directly under the authority of the speaker. And once speaker directs them to make sure, say, the 4 members of parliament move out of the window. They have no choice than to comply. Now, when they comply, I don't know what will happen from the end of the Supreme Court. Say, okay, no, we have given an order, so that order must be complied in Parliament. And you see, you can also come to Parliament without invitation.
That's right.
No, and if you see, they even had an arrangement as to how to serve Parliament from the court.
That's right.
Under this arrangement, Parliament is saying there, their colleagues in the majority, now minority, have broken that protocol. Say, over service speaker, now can speaker say between the members of Parliament and judiciary. No, over service member of Parliament, they agree on a day. Over service clerk of Parliament, they agree day. So over service MP as well, they are in this instance, no. That was not followed.
That's right.
Because all court processes should be served on the legal department of the parliamentary service. It's only on Mondays during working hours. That's when you are going to serve the speaker. When you are serving the clerk of parliament, Mondays or other weekdays, which is Tuesdays and Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. when parliament is on recess. And and our members of parliament who are Mondays and other weekdays, which is Tuesdays to Fridays, between 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. when parliament is on recess. And we are sure so basically MPA. And in this instance, they came to Parliament House and made a statement to the speaker, say, notifying the speaker, say, Oma 7, without going through this agreed protocol.
Okay.
That is also another issue. Say, why did they have to agree, say, Parliament House and the judiciary to give mutual respect to each other as different bodies within this governance when it comes to separation of powers now? Why then do you allow to do the agreement and then later you breach the agreement by not coming to serve us through this agreement?
So they were not properly served.
Therefore, so from the speakers and the members of majority now, and the minority now has acted in bad faith by not going strictly to the provisions arrangement of money judiciary. And almost when they were trying to get a speaker, they were not getting him. Almost share now, and that is the only way they can draw his attention to the fact that almost suit against Ono. And you know, these are other penny issues also, but the back and forth of it is there. We're going to have an interesting day in Parliament tomorrow.
Okay,
and we hope that maybe in a manner
their public perception of the Supreme Court, the court.
The majority, but I'm telling NDC, if this case, the Supreme Court, they should forget. They say, the current Supreme Court, and this case, so NDC should forget about their majority because we know that the current Supreme Court, unanimous. Because minority. NPP currently how many judges now are appointed? And Ghana you are able to obi young papa. Now are you bonny? Said your same on the appointing as a Supreme Court judge. And no know how mine. Because and then Supreme Court judge in Timintas is a man from running your juma. Or Tennessee, no head you free or buy, no yamran truka. It didn't make us and no Siabontene Ghana for. Don't send a way to deal with Supreme Court. As some the court rooms, oh, where they unanimous. Where they unanimous. Then get to and check as in America as the NPP at the Assembly Echo Supreme Court. NDC should forget because Supreme Court judges in the NPP for. I'm telling you. To me, see anything sorry. Gay anti-gay no acquire this say. Anti-gay call Supreme Court Justice to Kono, Chief Justice were in any. I hear levy case call Ecosi say. Oh, yinani, no, what did you ever one? The official favor no dog. How many times no Maya see National Cathedral? Christo Summine, near the anti-gay Belaba, already how many years? Eddie how many months? Abam Moyet in our but the Supreme Court Chief Justice were in any. And now there would the case way. Now so only interest. I will emoi. And another don't go for the Supreme Court to one can want them. Obianim said yes, and then you say the law is in the bottom of the Supreme Court. It's a Mran the Supreme Court na Mran bad time. Dan Kukum. Or no bet me as a Samrano, me no yentiminya honshe. Because that's the highest court of the land. And it's the Supreme Court as a sana, Untimi Fanko Baby. The Obayana Sobasaya appeal. Appeal no the same Supreme Court judges and as I got Naso, and go baby beam. Tina make a say NPP the co Supreme Court. And this should forget.
Right. So one of the public perception and social amount chronology of events, happiness. Share the electoral commission. I na adwin say obabe je registration e offices. Ghana for time assembly court. The same Chief Justice is over 2 kwan into the date in the bottom 2 kwan. You see, there are certain things oh yeah. Once if Parliament defies this, Emiri Baba rule in Ghana ni jim tum. And gradually, one monim go asieba. Because you will kromu ha and anas who say muji bayere any pona. Mutumi je pona krani kobi. No, anas ma ye who say mo bribe, yasi muji brama bribe so fin. Anas na ma ye who ye ebiji aje ma. Oh yes. Oh, yes, who twam bebre ye kire wase. So the woman na ma ye who say because tie oko appointment committee. Edi na be ma ti ade we. And all the time I have been saying this, Nanado nya 6 million plus. John Mahama nya 6 million plus. Ana John Mahama say it.
And this me and train and go Supreme Court to be. There was here a polling station and the collation center was here. And so I don't retract. The next election for NDC is going to be a do or die affair. You must do the right thing at the polling station. And so I'm telling all our party executives, say, you must be at that polling station and make sure the right thing is done. You must be at the collation center and make sure the right thing is done. Don't abdicate your responsibility at that level and expect that after somebody has stolen the election, you go to Supreme Court to see if they will turn the election for you. They won't do it. Ain't maintain sign. It's a do or die affair. It's an English idiom. Obianko be in the dictionary and see what do or die means. It's different from all die be die. All die be die, broken English, pidgin jargon, but we do or die. Could be a dictionary in that. And I say it's a do or die affair. NDC must man the polling stations. They must man the collation centers. Make sure the pink sheets are correct. Make sure we get the right results and everything, because if you be for a flag bearer, or never because of the Supreme Court. But say me NDC flag bearer, I'm not going to the Supreme Court. We must win at the polling station and the collation center. And Electoral Commission would have no option but to declare who the true winner is.
FM 92.3.
And you want to say or catch it say because looking at the current composition of the court, we got here maybe quick one, Mamin Trail. Panel no mutenase no. Justice Gertrude Tokono, you nominating in the new court Supreme Court in 2019. And now 2022, yeah, the Chief Justice. Justice Mariama Owusu, nominating at the Supreme Court 2019 by Nanado Dankwa Kufado. Justice Kwame A. Esiedu, Onusu 2022, Nanado Nadinikoy. Justice N.S. Yao Jewu, and no, yes, no, no, your parliamentary candidate, Edima, that's right. 2022, and the Ediniko Supreme Court, and now, yes, one in, because you're nominating the court 2022, that latter part, and at 2023, Nanado say Beji, and a Justice Yao Dako Asari, on 2023. It is uncle when you know young Kofan and Nado Diomukoye. So you see, I didn't hear obvious, and they are also not smart.
As I said, on the free, on the bar appeals court.
You see,
and from appeals court now on the bar.
So you see, and you see, they are also not
a senior lawyer,
and they are also not smart. Because Ghana can say we na munipa 5 we must say move detected the amaye.
Exactly.
So Ochinano Parliament see maybe job Facebook. This is what the NDC forces is from a majority group.
Exactly.
This is what the NDC can. Maybe job Facebook. Facebook na ya the cause tie.
Say omo advocate omo si na speaker so wo tumi say otisa say oma yeti wo parliament wo hwe ye stand order na enu nti na speaker tutu sa na ho na speaker ye ni nyina wo mbra kwan so say na so ye na ba no sa no nti no ama yen NDC fu na ye minority no se sia ya ye majority ye ho adoso asia before wo hwe mbra mu no a sia no che say ye oha aduasansia na endfo ye oha aduasan enum ama yen akoye majority na sa majority na ye mbra kwan so na di ama yen na nya di a ye betutu mu fom then the leader kai no ye be gina te ye majority ni aye niema majority ye be ye niema ebeboa Ghana man na ye ma obia emetietia ye mfa ho di so ye gidi se speaker ni decision na o make no ye mbra kwan so obia entumi nsisa no na ye be gina say majority going forward that was na ye majority so ye nya no ye be bomodin say sa recruit we ye be ye niema bia ye nim say ha Ghana for example tax how many yen you be to say ye levy be say betting tax ye be to an more than didn't 10 tema make sure say sa mra ni nyina ya sisa na amagana for what all that was
okay Alex, I think if you don't have any other questions, we want to thank you very much for attending on Sunday.
92.3 FM. Yep, yo.
Clearly, we share Sena.
That's right.
It tells you the direction now. The NDC is going. And who say, who can I be for 11? Where the minority at the time, they have to challenge this matter at the Supreme Court. Supreme Court raises this matter at the time, and now issue ekoso. Then immediately then the president assented.
That's right.
I mean the bill to an act for the e-levy to be operational. The question is that if indeed the NDC can go to court and challenge the legitimacy of the e-levy, now say you arguments you hold on, you answer na you pass. Now you Supreme Court, you me sign amana. Why is it that when it comes to LGBTQ and in the appointment of MPPs on the electoral commission there, and they see a chairman Supreme Court edit the ruling number and stand a baby who be there. This is the challenge I'm more. And you know, it looks like there's so many ways people want to fight back when it comes to some of these inconsistencies emanating from the Supreme Court. And of course, judgment is very important when it comes to how you bet me manage democracy.
That's right.
And you know, it will be very, very interesting. People will be sticking to Speaker Babin, the Nwaka. Some will also be holding on to the Supreme Court so far ruling on Diaba, asking the suspension of the ruling of the Speaker, and then we'll see how it plays out as to who is the master when it comes to the Parliament House, and then we take it out from there. Interesting days ahead.
Right. I'm 11 already down to 92.3. Now, when him, my young Kai Kakra, in the eve of on the 6th January 2021. Besides a history will repeat itself and now Emra military invade the Parliament of Ghana. Maybe I drop Facebook. Now share Facebook. Now one interesting thing. Once a Gabriel Chidako, I know about prepare the minds of Ghanaians. Eddie Gabriel Chidako baby say we know the tension about the bar now said dear was said the leadership was so much na one maybe atenase ben bi umre na me ba job na Facebook na fe yan share ni military invasion Parliament of Ghana 20 that was on the 6th January 2021. We ba job na Facebook afa ni yan share na yan say tie bo ba yanko.
We are aware that between yesterday and
maybe me ba chonya no 11 radio out on 92.3 ha ena Ghana ekasa ha na pepem na masane edom enyina ensu eti but bra Facebook just join us live na fe yema onia HAC wo Parliament 4 years ago a soja for ebowura Parliament na yanko
FM 92.3.
Enti we na ekoba before Dr. Manibu ama to Koshima soldier from Penifo.
I've just read the military say the Chief of Army Staff, Major General Bismarck Kwesi Ongona, has stated that the military has a significant responsibility in ensuring a free, fair, and transparent election. Look, the military, NDC will win all the barracks in Ghana. I want to tell the top hierarchy of the military, NDC will win all the barracks in Ghana. So the top hierarchy of the military, if they think what was done in the year 2020 can be repeated in 2024, they are joking. They are joking. Repeat it after me. They are joking. If they think that military invasion of Parliament Now, on January 6th, no, it will be repeated in this election. Once again, they are joking. Who will be a Wama command? And Nipana Edinachino are not obeying the command. They should wait and see.
Ahoto FM 92.3.
Dr. Atta Kennedy was tweeted there, but also Dr. Atta Kennedy fears Supreme Court is becoming more political than its rulings.
So I mean, it clearly tells you the points that I've made so far on the perception of public when it comes to Supreme Court. And then let me look at the Parliament now as for Ebu Ryan. We call it it's called the interregnum.
Okay.
That's the period that not one administration we win Juma waiting to hand over to another. And to that period, you new a very dangerous period. I mean, in our democratic circles, and I think say under whose command and Asuja Fonu
that's right.
There was no president at the time. And you know, if there was no president at the time, could it be the chief of defense staff or who commanded the military to invade parliament at a period that we didn't have a president?
And now you're more or less like coup.
That is the implication, because anybody could have taken advantage, because we didn't have a president. We were waiting to sanitize parliament by way of voting for the speaker. The speaker also swearing the new president. And as we didn't have a president now, so as for Ebu Ryan, the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces we don't have. There's nobody. Then their command goes. No minister's power works at that time, because so the military will automatically be acting maybe under the chief of defense staff. And I'm saying under whose command? And as I said, for Ebu Ryan Parliament. And I think that those military members no Mubura Parliament, their cases should be pending. That when the new government comes, we will not allow anybody, no matter the circumstances, say democracy here you quick me, we better us. And in for me, that invasion, a case will be revisited.
Okay.
Now coming to the military, I'm maybe over home say, and the military is still contemplating instead they will play a role in this election. What is your role? There's number of police force we have in this country. They are more than enough and more than capable of managing these elections. What is the role of the military in this matter?
And what is the president afraid of?
I think it's the statement now, the military command officer and AAN. I'm sure I don't know what platform they'll use here, but it should be very clear to them that they have no business in these elections. The police is capable and competent enough to supervise these elections. The unless of course there's any invitation from the police, say there's an emergency they want a reinforcement. We have not gotten there. I'm saying that the police as we have now are capable of managing. The military shouldn't even dream of coming closer to these elections. Because of the precedent in our Esinu, we have record where military people shot into crowds and killed 8 innocent Ghanaians. As we speak, we can identify one of them to own up. Say, and you think that Ghanaians will be quiet for another military to be part of this election? They won't. And no PR should come from the military say, and we will safeguard it. You don't even comment about it. Leave the election to the police. Let them do their job. And the police have not come out to tell Ghanaians say, I mean, they will be overwhelmed by the upcoming election. They need the support of the military. I think I fully support the statement now, the director of election, because side elections, anybody knows it's not a normal elections. And we have had bad precedent in these elections. Now, then there will be a repetition of what happened in 2020. It's so shameful. Say, as a man Ghana, the team Kunipa 8, Ama Obiabe president, and then no justice for any of them. Only to brand as criminals. and we are still thinking it's normal.
So
it cannot be entertained anywhere in this world.
So how
or
many
in a proper democratic state, it won't be entertained. You know, I think it's a question. Our sound, I mean, in proper context.
Right.
The age was a
but I say, I tell for the BEM now. My main cow said Christmas Hearing Center say, baby, I will be ano, or Mamunina Atena say, a ye was so unquid in your man quia, Bomoding say uno beto kese. Bomoding so before 0244 675 962 and a 0248 878 171. Now you need Christmas Hearing Center. Oh, Bibika. Right. Mami, and Chelsea Malam Adagba Spiritual Herbal Center say, ye. Waba the amount maybe I will be ano ewie woni no so ento kese na obeboa ama wo ha nyina a eba wo so anaso how bia age wo nipadua aboso no eno so eno so obeboa na bibia so aye kama pa the amount malam dagba say wie say atu waduro obi afa kwati kwa bi age wo die bi wa bi bi efiri won sema bomani say obeba na kache na ewie bra na obeboa owo nsawam okanta fosu ajanhye na owo yene ni nkasa wo 0247 558 839 0247 558 839 na yene malam adagba entwetwe enkomo ma mehwe messages ni ba na eba JK dosu edwefi mapokwapem o se michia wa Alaska ne opana se mehwe se de na judiciary na nkasa no one more attorney speaker ruling no upside down said then also Obeka NDC executive need leadership no say omofa nkrofo enko International Criminal Court of Justice na omoshed for arbitration na ohun say nanado dan kwakufu ado no man na plan boni pa dia ma my way but nanado ni the nyame never deal with or no mu dem hwe Mula Oma all the way to Temota Alaska Supreme Court Justice in SFU MPP and yet on my President lack principles power ni common sense right also need the I don't know 0303 40262 and 0303 402 obebem na obema yebe kase ye bia meja we bia manase president debate and ho asem ti mamefa be course we bi na memra back never no wrap up if I just over and snap here for me 0303 40262 and 0303 402 0541 82 5106 oba na wabo remama good evening
Alaska
me ba jo dini ba bia o ka sefi
your friend Osama friend normally atayabi
Osama yanko Alaska wanyame won hira won okese na onu nkrofo na mutu onyankopɔ won hira mu ni sa kase ya mu kasa mu kire ya wo fi ya kuma eto yem kakɛ mo aya de pa mi che doctor nyame hira no papa no doctor ne ta nyankopɔ won hira sa papa no ni dibia bia o bet mo odi boa ya party na ewo kofre de hanu de yenka Alaska Ghana be ye de Otina parliament beye de keke. Ho se ye kase ye bedi na nado echi a papa no boni a ewo ne trim. Eye me nwanwa. Sa papa yi kura Allah wala Alaska nkrofo mu ya kronfo. They are very wicked people. Omutim wo su. Oma planning bad ya amagana. Se omani ansei e ka omunko a omano ansei kura no. Medas good evening.
Good evening, Alaska. I want to say. Alaska, you're from Alaska, with free Zenu Central.
Alaska, Yanko.
Michio, HM, Baba, Babs. Alaska, MPP for Aya Crawford, Omun Ferradi. Andra, as someone a Syria, Omujobility Wahono. And the same as someone back. After the the law up in China. I did a shock me. Me manco school. Me your lawyer, me bra babs. Me bomb pay, Yamin Chad there. Obaba lawyer, I will fear. Maybe they me your lawyer, school man could. But who tell lawyer for? Face there, someone buy no. What you mean say MDC side no? No more to law no. almost to standing orders of parliament. But the MPP was speaking, or they were speaking with emotions. Our Ankasa was set the president. Who said, Omar journey fast at the Supreme Court. The same Supreme Court that Omar journey coin, the same another some now almost president now almost set here, Eddie Omo and Nano. Omun can who say, Johnny Omar journey cost Supreme Court and Nano, a bedio muchiso achina. But are we saying, say, because of the time of what I call it, time in New York, Yabatwaba, Yan follows on the and China. Parliament, I want no rules, I want no laws, and a bag being apply.
Right.
Court no, the say, oh, laws now apply. No, yen say and chilchilemu, or much chilmama.
Abby.
Oh, mamma, no, almost chilchilemu, Maya, Bagbin to make sure, say, the laws to work. MPP, Ghana is not for MPP.
Thank you for my brother. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I told you about your Kajofi.
Kajofi to me,
okay, Yanko.
Say a Ghana, but majority leader, while Bompa, a future majority, a future measure, degree. Sunday, a gay, I had a Bible. My should go for a shamumra. It can be as a massive joke, of course. So that means not a gain our ancestors. Oh, into way a foot for big nature, that's what to about Dama. No, you shall not or today. Internet today. A majority leader, while boss, a majority leader.
Let us be being too bold, dear, be being to me, you official. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
I would need about your Kajofi.
Yeah, me army because Africa from here.
Okay, I remember Yanko.
Yeah, me youth organizer, Commander Bilibu, ewo Eastern Region. Ya me shira na party CRC on na mo ye tuma fine. Ba Alaska unso mi sre shira kese de ma. Any ahoban ball. Because Alaska asema ha me ne say we asema e won me pese mi tu na Akufo-Addo. Because one to the full nasa biba or because one country. On Jenny Musi now on Shasania Yadi or Mini Sen some a because a war or 9 year war. So, Hondi and now or Tina Unia Hondi.
Right, may I say, good evening.
Good evening.
We didn't have your Kajofi.
Assemble Badabio, Assemble Badabi, Akufo-Addo the Asemaba, Akufo-Addo the Asemaba, Nami Bujase, Akufo-Addo only Babi, one or a lawyer, Papa. Akufo-Addo or a lawyer more than a Babi, Anna. Akufo-Addo, what year, only Baba, and you can't yell or person. That process, a delay, and no, I'm sorry. National Alaska Wakano, or Yankopon on any bad deal. Yeah, Ashanti Bedio, on Panin to move one. On Panin to move. Akufo-Addo is a bad man. I'm telling you, a diabolic.
Let us say, good evening.
Alaska, hey.
Yes, sir.
Kwaku Shabu, no make us because everyone say no for pay.
Right, Kwaku Yanko.
Alaska, where you have been Srewa. It's a man, Pagini who has a vice in a hall. Vice in Sudi,
Vice
in a speaker, Speaker, the one, Chief Justice, so you ever.
With you.
Jesus, Siano, and they'll be a bit or so be as a but for you, how on course school that. What about you today? Or see, in car, Chief Justice in the and car, you are back, can say. And Conca said, Obia, your majority. Now, me dear 7 in there, Ebuan in there, every young baby are 7 better, and Kakada Bedro.
Right, Kwaku, may I say, good evening.
Yes, it's about Alaska, I want to say,
I'm it, I say,
is capital to Chumai.
Okay, Yanko.
We will be that thing. Naminka, who knows some ball who buy, no back down who buy, and to be a rubber court, look to Jenny or more empire and farmer Ghana mine. Nah, they didn't say
ewiem atumfoɔ a ɛyɛ yɛdi nsɛn aborɔnsam ne nneɛma te sɛ ɛbasa ɛgyige Ghana so a ama Ghana anigye nni Ghana mu biom ɛkɔm ne yareɛ ne yɛdi nsɛn akoma asɛe na yɛde nam anasa mepakyɛ wo ɛnti sɛ Chief Justice wɔ nimadeɛ paa na hwan na ɛma no swan hwan na ɛtoto n'ano ɛwɔ Ghana ansa na wabɛyɛ Chief Justice ɛnti sɛ obi na ɛyɛ no saa adeɛ a na kyerɛ sɛ obi anim adeɛ bi kyɛn no ɛsan wɔ tumi ɛkyɛn no ntumi deɛ mɛka kakra no sɛ ɛkyena deɛ yɛkye no ma Nyankopɔn ɛma yɛnte 2020 a yɛhu ne yɛ a yɛgyaagya ɛho a yɛdi ne sɛn ama ɛnɔma ayɛ basa ama obia so democracy aba democracy so ɛyɛ adwen
Mamate, my last caller, Udi.
England. Champion Alaska.
Yauza.
Okay, the boo. Tony little person NDC. Obozo for Dr. Yamini Kaba Coupe. Teaching no politics him. Or that politics I Yauza no die. Dr. Obozo for Timino. We won the politician that. The one Ghana. I'm telling you. Who met Timino? So we are one thing. Any Papa 20. Alaska Patrol Mala Daban Fano.
Our and someone can't have for Swajashi.
Where the MS Supreme Court and said, Judges Nova, our friend say, Yauza, since that day where we passed the case, Goose is chasing us, Goose shipping us. And I mean, you haven't seen nothing yet. You haven't seen nothing yet. Your judgment be like up and down court judgment. In let day ground, when let day top. You will see it. Not some more. Judge in our family, or Mamma direction call. Well, Alaska share 7 years, Alaska medical tattoo. Say, new president will pass it. And tell now what you and yet Alaska only my dear say. Young money can you will see or parliament. I want to end this you do not do one Ghana or Piazza every time in us. I am going to me every drop now. Mamma will be on one number. I don't call them with Munitima, why are you doing like that? You are Babylon judges. Salasia, you Babylon people in Beijing.
Vance.
That's guy.
Yeah,
I think the court of public opinion, Akasa.
That's right.
And I think it's Supreme Court betting as Pemua, Ebeboa. And you know, made the man be CDA. We are waiting to see what happens in Parliament tomorrow, and of course, interesting days ahead as far as democracy is concerned. My friend Shaso Kuma just can hear
right.
Nana Tete passe into the 7th any Holo 2 and Kotukulizongo form so mutio, Mosobunamutio, base 5 carpentry, just can.
Right.
Pacho Babomudi, Pacho Brave, Babomudi.
Base 5.
Base 5. Almost here, and Babomudi, yeah. My Bajas Cardia, Mamma for Hobby. It's when Babomudi, that was surprising with him was.
Right, I'm saying, I'm my corner. Yeah, did you make the NBC? But in the Emmanuel question, my draw from